Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we are unpacking a really striking piece of market data, looking at the historical context and the highly futuristic forecasts surrounding a very specific cryptocurrency, Origin LGNS. If you enjoy digging into detailed market analyses and mapping out future projections step by step, well, you are exactly where you need to be for this explainer. Right off the bat, this brings us to a fascinating core mystery. Could Origin LGNS actually become the most surprising crypto story of the coming years? Based on the highly optimistic projections we're about to review, the source material certainly frames it as a distinct possibility. We are going to break down the exact numbers that are driving this bold narrative. Section 1. The context. Past peaks versus current reality. $84.37. According to our source data, back in April of 2024, LGNS reached this massive all-time high. Now, this is absolutely crucial to keep in mind because it proves the project has already demonstrated significant market potential in the past. We aren't just talking about a theory here. It literally hit this peak. But let's be real. The current reality sits at just $3.18. And while it dropped from over $84 down to around $3 might seem like a totally disappointing reality at first glance, the source material explicitly notes that a lot of successful assets experience similar steep dips before staging major recoveries. This current price, it's the exact foundation of the upward projection we are unpacking today.
Section 2. Analyzing present technical indicators. Now, what's really interesting about this is how we transition from pure price points to actual market mechanics.
Let's objectively break down this trading dashboard. Looking at the 50-day and 200-day simple moving averages, along with the overall market sentiment, well, the indicators are clearly flashing short-term weakness. There is no sugarcoating that. However, look at that RSI, or Relative Strength Index. It's sitting at 38.64. While the broader trends look undeniably weak, that specific RSI number tells a developing story that the source focuses on heavily. To understand why that specific RSI actually matters, we have to talk about oversold territory. This is a condition where an asset has traded lower in price and is interpreted by some traders as a possible recovery zone. An RSI of 38.64 means the asset is rapidly approaching this exact threshold, a threshold the source identifies as the key catalyst for the potential recovery we're about to explore. Section 3. Future Price Projections. The 2026 build-up. Now, framing these strictly as mapped-out projections and definitely not guaranteed outcomes, we can trace a gradual, month-by-month anticipated improvement. Starting in June 2026, the source projects a range of $4.21 to $4.67. Moving through July and August, we see the steady, incremental climb, ultimately stabilizing at a projected $4.85 to over $5 by September. It's a slow burn for sure. But if bullish momentum truly returns, exactly as the source suggests it might, the end of the year tells a much more dramatic story. November jumps to a projected range of $5.55 to nearly $10. And by December, the forecast claims LGNS could push into a significantly higher bracket, reaching anywhere from $9.79 to almost $13. So the narrative shifts entirely from a slow recovery right into rapid acceleration. Section 4. 2027 and beyond, the ROI climax. Let's move to and see how this builds into the following year. The projections for 2027 show a massive upward jump. We are looking at a forecasted range with a low of $14.04 and a high of $16.81. These targets represent the absolute climax of the source's optimistic scenario. If market conditions remain highly favorable, this is the peak the data points toward in the medium term. So, the crucial point is this. According to these specific forecasts, hitting that 2027 target would represent an estimated potential return on investment of over 174%. It's a striking metric, right? And it totally anchors the entire bullish, highly optimistic narrative presented in the data. And the timeline doesn't even stop there. The projections stretch outward to 2028, 2029, 2030, and even decades ahead into 2040 and 2050. While the source rightfully notes that forecasts over these much longer timeframes vary considerably, the optimistic scenarios suggest substantial upside potential far, far into the future. Section 5. Reality check. Risks and volatility. Okay, let's take a breath and ground ourselves for a second. The source is absolutely clear with its warnings, and we are objectively presenting them right here. Every single investment carries risk. Cryptocurrency markets are highly volatile, and most importantly, future performance can never be guaranteed. Behind all of those massive ROI projections lies an inherent market volatility that absolutely must be respected. The source concludes its analysis with a very specific three-word mantra: research, patience, opportunity. It highlights that regardless of whether LGNS actually hits those massive 2027 targets or if it struggles against market volatility, informed decisions and careful analysis remain the single most valuable tools for any investor. And to be abundantly clear, as stated boldly by our source material, this is not financial advice. This explainer is simply an impartial visual analysis of the source's data and forecasts. We're just unpacking the numbers they've presented. We're certainly not endorsing the asset or recommending any kind of financial action. Which leaves us with one final thought to ponder. With these highly optimistic projections mapped directly against the unpredictable and volatile reality of the crypto space, what do you do with this information? Is your next move to take that mantra to heart and research further? Or is it to simply wait and see how the market unfolds? Well, the next step is entirely up to you. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.